This is Mrs. Getke with Labs from Your Living Room. This is the kinetic energy of a pendulum lab. Here are the supplies you'll need for today's lab. You need a smooth book, a 30-centimeter ruler, something to use as a block. In this case, I chose Devil's Food Jello because it's my favorite. You'll need something to form a string, and it can be lots of different things. It could be fishing line or a ribbon or even a string from an old sweatshirt. You'll need something to cut your string with and 2 cans of soup. And I've chosen 2 personal favorites, home-style chicken noodle and tomato, but you get to pick your favorites too. In addition, you're going to need something to form the bob on your pendulum. In this case, I used a socket from my husband's toolbox, and you need to have something that's small and dense. Another good idea would be to take a sample bottle from shampoo, and if it's empty, you could refill it with sand or water, but it needs to be fairly small and dense. Your string should be about 1/2 of a meter long, but the distance isn't super important. You don't want to hold on to the other end of your pendulum because your hand's going to move, even if you have another person holding on to it. So I'd like you to find some place where you can actually secure the other end of that. And I have secured this pendulum up here. I actually tied it to the top of my lamp. So that makes a nice little stand there for my pendulum. And when you set this up now, what you're going to do is I want you to let that pendulum fall so that it's perpendicular to the floor. When you light up your book, I want the edge of the book just underneath, right where that pendulum is hanging down straight. For right now, we're going to move those soup cans. And I want you to take the block of Jello, or a deck of cards would work great. And I want you to put that right where that pendulum would hit the edge of the book. Now, the height of the pendulum right now should be just so it barely clears that book when it's going to swing. I would like you to measure with your ruler how high is that bob at impact. So you'll take a measurement of the height of the bob at the impact. In other words, where is that bob going to hit your block? Then you're going to take your ruler, and you want to have your pendulum start at 30 centimeters above the floor. So I moved my ruler over here to the edge of my sofa, and I'm going to pull that pendulum back until it's about 30 centimeters off the floor. And then I'm going to let it go, and it's going to hit that box of Jello, just like that. And it may or may not hit straight. It would be nice if it would hit nice and straight on. What I'd like you to do with your ruler now is measure the distance that that box moved from the edge of the book to where that box landed. That's going to be how much kinetic energy that the pendulum has when it's at its lowest point in its swing. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to lift this book up, and here's where the soup cans come in handy. You're going to move this setup backwards. So you're going to take your 2 soup cans, okay, and we're going to move that whole setup with the book backwards so that now you may have to adjust. You don't want to change the length of your pendulum, but what you want is when that pendulum hits now, it's not going to hit straight down. It's going to hit where it's coming back up in its swing, so that when that pendulum hits the block now, it's not at its lowest point. It's actually almost at its highest point.